My name is Rachel Robinson, and I am the Deputy Commissioner at Minnesota Housing. I'm thrilled to announce that on Thursday, December 15th, our Board of Directors approved funding selections of over $165 million that will create and preserve more than 2,100 homes, apartments, and manufactured home lots. Governor Tim Walz shared a few words with us in recognition of the agency's selections.
Hello everyone, Governor Tim Walz here. I'm really proud to announce that we're creating and preserving thousands of safe and affordable homes across the state. This year's project selections are an example of what government can do. Build homes that are deeply affordable to bring housing stability to more Minnesotans. We know that having a place to call home is foundational to Minnesota's health and safety. But we also know that right now, thousands of Minnesota children and families live in precarious situations. That's why Lieutenant Governor Flanagan and I are committed to ensuring that every Minnesotan has a safe, accessible, and affordable place to call home. We have the opportunity to make historic investments in local jobs and projects across the state to create the housing Minnesotans need. I'm grateful to our many housing partners for their work to make this possible. I'm looking forward to working together to expand access to safe and affordable housing across the entire state of Minnesota. Thank you all.
Thank you, Governor Walz. Minnesota Housing is grateful for your and the Lieutenant Governor's commitment to creating and preserving more homes Minnesotans can afford. As Governor Walz mentioned, one of the critical funding tools the agency has in its toolbox is housing infrastructure bonds, which allow us to provide deep affordability for Minnesotans who make the least. This year's selections include $25 million in housing bonds, and we hope to announce more next year. Now, let's turn to the category of multifamily selections. This year, we've selected a total of 17 rental housing projects that will support 1,000 affordable apartments. The majority of those will be brand new apartment buildings. About 140 of the units will be rehabilitated with upgrades to preserve them into the future. These developments will take place across the state, with 8 in the Twin Cities metro and 9 across greater Minnesota. More than a third of the units will be deeply affordable. One of the things we're especially proud of in this year's multifamily selections is the engagement of more developers of color who have not worked with Minnesota Housing before. We have a guiding document called the Qualified Allocation Plan that lays out our priorities for proposed developments. And one is to expand our work with developers of color. One of the developers new to our selections this year is J.B. Vang Partners. Among lead developer, Vang has been selected for funding to build Gladstone Village, which will bring 65 new affordable apartments to Maplewood. We had a chance to speak directly with President Ku Vang. Let's hear from him.
I think it's important because I think what we bring to the development process and to these projects is lived experience, right? I'm a kid from the projects. I grew up in not even affordable housing. I grew up in public housing, right? And then you move into affordable housing, then as you become more entwined into the working world, then you move out. And so there are certain nuances, and I don't want to use the word culturally sensitive or culturally appropriate, but there are nuances in which larger families, BIPOC families, or just the immigrant families have that's very different from mainstream communities and stuff of that nature. And so you want to make sure that you capture some of these nuances. It really doesn't add a lot of cost to the project, but it makes the usability of those units incredibly more usable just because of the way people live.
Thank you, and congratulations to Vang Partners for their successful application. Now, let's turn our attention to this year's single-family selections. This year we have 37 project selections that support 412 single-family homes and households. Promoting homeownership, particularly among first-generation homebuyers and households of color, remains a pillar of our work. This is the case regardless of the rising home costs, high interest rates, and a low supply of affordable single-family homes. In spite of these obstacles, we are still creating new homes, rehabbing others, and providing down payment assistance loans to help people achieve their goal of homeownership. One of the single-family selections this year is for 8 new single-family community land trust homes that will be built in Grand Rapids through a collaboration between Itasca County HRA and One Roof Community Housing. Let's hear from the developer and a homeowner from Duluth who understands the unique benefits of the community land trust model.
And so we were approached and actually approached One Roof and said, you know, how could we make a land trust model work here? And we're very, very grateful that they stepped up and said, we'll provide you technical assistance. The city stepped up and said, we've got land. We think that this will spur further development in our community, so that's very exciting for us. And we just know that the land trust model, because of who it will target, we believe it will work here in our community.
We're not going paycheck to paycheck anymore. You know, before it was paycheck to paycheck and we'd go super negative every month, every week we'd go negative in our account, and that hasn't happened for probably like 3-4 months now. So we were finally able to catch up, and now we're starting to get ahead, and it feels good.
Congratulations to Itasca County HRA, One Roof Community Housing, and all of the partners who are bringing this first phase of new homes to Grand Rapids. Now, let's turn our attention to manufactured housing, which has its own round of selections in the Community Redevelopment Program. This remains a new area of investment for Minnesota Housing. We're excited to announce nearly $10 million to support 14 manufactured home communities across the state, with a total of 740 lots and lot owners seeing infrastructure improvements to their communities. One example of this year's selections is Bennett Park Cooperative in Moorhead. The 22-lot manufactured home community Bennett Park provides some of the lowest lot rents in the region, but the community has some overdue infrastructure needs. With support from Minnesota Housing, the community will see sewer pipes and water main upgrades, and the reconstruction of parking lots and roads. These investments will keep Bennett Park a viable, affordable manufactured home community for years to come. I'm pleased to share that the agency selected 4 developments led by a tribe or urban Indian organization. These include the 14th phase of Red Lake Homes and a second Red Lake supportive housing project on Red Lake tribal land, as well as the Native American Community Clinic and an adaptive reuse by the Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center in Minneapolis. I encourage you to explore Minnesota Housing's 2022 selections on our website, mnhousing.gov, for more highlights about the selections as well as the spreadsheets with all the funding details. A special thank you to all of our funding partners that made today's announcement possible. Thank you to the Minnesota Legislature for making housing resources available, and to all of the innovative housing developers and partners who turn numbers on a spreadsheet into homes Minnesotans can afford.